To get directly to the point of this video, my hybrid wasn't shown anywhere, and I spent a lot of time working on it because I thought I got in the top 16. And I didn't, and that's okay. But I do have a lot of stuff, and I wanted to put it out there. So let's get straight to everything. Starting with the contributors. Carnotaurus, the meat-eating bull. Carno is built for ramming, being well adapted for running and one of the faster large theropods. It also sports 2 thick horns and a short, sturdy skull that would have made for quick head turns. Its actual speed came partly from its stiff tail. While the legs were plenty long and powerful, its cauda femoralis, a muscle that connected its legs to its tail, was quite large. This muscle pulls the leg back and adds to Carno's acceleration and overall speed, especially in short bursts. In order to increase its ramming power, I decided to add Triceratops, the 3-horned face. Triceratops had a bony skull with 3 large, sharp, and keratin-covered horns. Their shield-like frills were used as both protection and a great place for jaw muscles. These extra attachment points made Triceratops' bite, paired with the small surface area of its beak, a force to be reckoned with. Interestingly, Triceratops also had a ball-looking thing at the back of its skull called an occipital condyle. This condyle worked like a ball and socket joint, allowing for a wider range of movement in the neck. As the hybrid was being synthesized, it occurred to me that it didn't have much in terms of armor, so I decided to add the crocodile. Crocodiles have thick scales all along their bodies, and osteoderms, or bony plates in the skin, mainly on their backs and tails. This armor, while tough, is also hydrodynamic. Thankfully, hydrodynamic means aerodynamic, making my hybrid armored but not slowed. You may be surprised to know that crocodiles are actually regarded as highly intelligent. They're capable of both tool use and complex hunting strategies with other crocodiles. Things like using lures to attract prey or chasing large prey towards deeper water where other crocs are waiting. The girth of the crocodile's tail will also act as a necessary counterweight to my hybrid's now heavier skull. Speaking of skulls, next is Pachycephalosaurus. Pachyes have a skull that's about 9 to 10 inches thick and built to survive interspecies headbutting. It is likely that they have neck muscles designed to keep their necks from breaking on impact. The strength of their skull could toughen the Triceratops' horns and make them stronger. Not to mention they're probably really aggressive. It's great that we have all this power, but what does it mean if we can't run? Next is the ostrich, just about the dumbest animal with a brain. Good thing is, we're not going to need any brain power. Ostriches have elastic tendons that store and release energy for each stride, greatly reducing the energy needed to maintain their top speed. They also have long legs with the majority of their muscles at their thighs and hips. This muscle placement allows the legs to swing faster and farther. Apparently, ostriches also have ligaments that passively keep the ankle extended and legs stabilized. The claws on their toes keep them stable at high speeds, a max of 43 miles per hour. All these adaptations help the ostrich run fast without burning much stamina, not to mention their powerful legs can kick a lion to death. Alright, now that we have both speed and power, what else could we need but senses? Tyrannosaurus rex, the tyrant lizard, the dinosaur, and for good reason. Outside of the strongest bite of any dinosaur, T-Rex also had the best senses. A sense of smell similar to that of vultures, and an extended cochlea specialized for low-frequency sounds like prey's footsteps. T-Rex's large, forward-facing eyes gave it excellent binocular vision and depth perception, while also giving it better night vision. It could see 5 times as well as a falcon and spot an object 3.7 miles away. T-Rex had padded feet that dampened the noise of their walking and running. While unfortunately not as smart as baboons, they are still as smart as modern crocodiles. T-Rex were also terrifyingly agile, using their horizontally short bodies, large ilia, upper part of the hip that allows for more muscles, and low center of gravity to maneuver and spin around faster than any predator of similar size. Ordinarily, this would be good for any hybrid, but I was aiming for the top 16, so I added a few more very unique abilities. The coconut octopus, a surprising but essential part of this hybrid. Coconut octopus, fish, reptiles, and many other cephalopods have pigment-containing cells called chromatophores. Chromatophores are pretty much color-changing cells. They work because small radial muscles, like the ones that control the size of your pupil, expand and contract the cell. The cell has a sac inside it that is filled with color. When the muscles contract, they expand the sac and reveal more color, relaxing if the skin needs to be dull. This can be done very quickly, allowing the octopus to create flashing patterns or disguise itself immediately upon sensing a threat. Coconut octopus are also one of the only octopus that use tools, primarily coconut shells for protection. They've also been known to use rocks as both barricades and projectile weapons. Coconut octopi are versatile in that they will use broken shells, bottles, and other objects as den defense too. Their high intelligence and ability to quickly change color will be crucial for ambushes. And lastly, for a secret weapon, we have the turkey vulture. Turkey vultures have the strongest stomach acid in the animal kingdom, able to digest flesh, bone, bacteria, pathogens, some metals, and even destroy DNA. Even better, they can vomit this acid up to 10 feet away. In addition to this powerful stomach, they have strong immune systems designed to defeat some of the worst bacteria and pathogens in the corpses they eat. These bald-faced birds are also quite intelligent, displaying curiosity, bonding behavior, excellent memory, and problem-solving. The fusion of all these animals, the peak of all realistic plausible dinosaurs, Thunder. The 9.7 foot tall, 13 foot long, 8,000 pound monster of muscle and bone, equipped with near invisibility, the best senses of the planet, and projectile vomit that can melt metal. Alright, that's good and all, but how will this DNA work in a fight? Simple, and I'll even tell you. Ramming. Using Carno's massive cauda femoralis, Thunder can reach his top speed very quickly enough to sink his horns through the Indom 2.0's body and into her soft, defenseless organs. Alongside piercing her, the Pachy's thick head serves to smash her ribs. Thunder will likely survive this attack due to his thick neck, a gift from the Carno, Triceratops, and Pachycephalosaurus. Running. Thunder's genetic contributors, the Carnotaurus and ostrich, give him powerful leg muscles, and concentrated at the upper leg allow him to run quickly and efficiently. The ostrich's ligaments, elastic tendons, toe claws, and long legs give Thunder a large stride that requires little energy to keep up. Not to mention the ultra-efficient lungs present in dinosaurs like the T-Rex. I'll show a video, but basically they pull air into air sacs in their belly, push it through a structure that allows blood to pull 100% of the oxygen from the air, unlike the max 50% in humans, and pull the used air into another air sac in their chest before breathing it out. This pretty much lets both dinosaurs and birds have two breaths in their bodies at once. This is the reason why birds can fly above mountain peaks without seeming to be out of breath. Maneuverability. Yeah, Thunder doesn't really have much. In order to have the cauda femoralis, dinosaurs like Carnotaurus had to trade the flexibility of their tails, reducing their ability to maneuver around tight turns. This also reduces Thunder's ability to swim, since a crocodile's swimming ability is mostly in the tail. Thankfully, the T-Rex's ilia helps to mitigate this. Bite. The genetic contributions of the T-Rex, crocodile, and Triceratops give Thunder an immense bite force. Crocodiles get their bite from both powerful muscles and a unique secondary jaw joint that distributes the force and prevents strain or dislocation. Without this brace, a crocodile's jaw would be under a lot of stress with every bite. T-Rex, however, used its wide skull and intramandibular joint, a joint in the lower jaw, to achieve even more strength. Unlike in most modern birds and reptiles, excluding turtles and crocodiles, the T-Rex's intramandibular joint was stiff and didn't flex. This meant that it was harder to hold on to struggling prey, but gave them a more effective bite. Adding on to that, T-Rex's teeth were broad and cone-shaped, as to not waste their crushing force on slicing. Lastly, their wide skulls allowed more area for large muscle attachment, the muscles being both large and very organized. As I've already said, Triceratops' frill acted as a great place for jaw muscles, but its sharp beak only concentrated that power onto a smaller area. Thunder's diet also adds a lot of bacteria from rotting corpses to his bite. Abilities. I already explained how Thunder's invisibility works, but what I didn't mention is how the crocodile's armor subtracts absolutely nothing from his color changing. Because chromatophores can only operate on the skin, it means that bones, keratin, or horns won't change color, but osteoderms are bony plates beneath the skin, absolutely dodging that stipulation. Thankfully, Thunder's horns are already dark, so hiding in the shadows of the woods won't be much of a problem. As for the vomiting, vultures, especially turkey vultures, have the animal kingdom's strongest stomach acid. Second up are crocodiles. The combination of both the strongest acid makers means my hybrid will have thick enough stomach walls to not melt through his own guts. Congruity. Thunder's genome is made almost entirely of dinosaurs, birds, and reptiles, all of which are closely related. The only thing that can give Thunder some confusion is a single octopus. Additionally, few of the contributors are herbivores with instincts to flee, and even fewer use their arms to attack. Most know to plan an ambush for their prey instead of blindly chasing, and the herbivores add their natural wariness of predators to Thunder's perception. Now, because I finished all that researching stuff, I decided to write 3 scenarios for whatever interaction thing might happen if Thunder were to actually meet the Indom. Here goes. Thunder finds himself wandering a lush jungle, complete with great ferns, swaths of bushes, and towering trees. Odd thing is, all he can find are the plants. No birds chirp, no theropods roar, no animals make themselves known. All he can hear is a never-ending buzzing of countless flies off in the distance. Noting the eerie silence, Thunder takes a deep sniff. Nothing. Just old blood and rotting vegetation. Huffing quietly, he stomps off in search of prey. So far, he has only found blood trails and viscera, nothing worthy of being called a meal. Suddenly, Thunder feels a small breeze drift through the trees. The wind has changed direction, and bringing with it the scent of corpses. Thunder eagerly twists towards the smell, intending to follow it before he hesitates. There is something more than death on the wind. Something muskier and alien. Forgoing the easier food option, Thunder decides to sate his curiosity. Taking full advantage of his padded feet, Thunder quietly moves through the forest. For several minutes, he keeps his internal ears pricked, nose primed, and body held low to the ground. The odd scent seems to have come from this area. The clearing is not natural. There are numerous broken trees, plenty of torn-up vegetation, and a trail of both large and small footprints. The larger ones seem to belong to a theropod. From what Thunder could tell, the creatures had come from a different direction, looped once around a particularly large tree trunk, and ran off the opposite way. Low crunches could be heard from Thunder's left, drawing his attention from the trail. Through the thick bushes he could see something white. Seeking a closer look, Thunder inches closer. As he peers through the bushes, he sees something he can't quite place. It's large for one, but it also looks weird. The monster is pale white, with two pronounced brow ridges and blue running along its back, starting from behind its skull. It looks kind of like a T-Rex, but with shrunken legs, thick scales all over its body, and quills coming down the back of its neck. Not to mention its sharp claws and massive muscular arms, which are comparable to the length of its legs. It is currently holding a small hadrosaur to its face, quickly devouring some of the only life Thunder has seen since arriving on the island. Thunder creeps forward even further, maintaining his camouflage. The large white thing is much too large for his liking. If he lets it go, it may eat all the prey in the jungle, or even scare them away. Categorizing it as a threat, Thunder bunches the muscles in his legs, preparing for a decisive ambush. It lifts its head, sniffing the air. Thunder stills. Blood drips from its open mouth, coating its teeth and painting the forest floor a deep red. After a few seconds, it goes back to eating, the wind thankfully blowing towards Thunder. He wants to bolt, but he steels his resolve. He may never get a chance to kill a threat like this again. In a quick motion, Thunder erupts from the bush, pushing his legs like never before. The pale monster is surprised that it can't react quick enough. Thunder's horns plunge through its side, puncturing multiple vital organs and cracking ribs. The impact felt like running face first into a wall wrapped in blankets, except those blankets did little more than prevent cuts and scrapes. The monster roars in pain and shock, grabbing onto Thunder's tail and violently throwing him to a nearby tree. It was agony, but the damage was already done. The monster tried to lunge at him, but it couldn't go far before coughing up blood. Life oozed from its mouth and gushed from its ribs, mixing with the disturbed jungle floor. Thunder struggled to his feet, quickly backing away. The monster again tried to reach for him, but it cringed back into itself. Each breath seemed to be agonizing, the broken ribs digging into its failing lungs. Blood began to create a pool around it, and the monster grew even paler than it already was. Eventually, it stopped wheezing, and its hateful stare grew glassy and unfocused. Still, for 3 more minutes, Thunder sat waiting for a surprise lunge, a last desperate attempt for revenge, but nothing happened. Thunder threw a small stone at it, and when it still didn't react, he finally approached the rapidly cooling body. Thunder walked over to the fatal wound, paused, and tore a bit of lung out. Swallowing quickly, he began to ravenously consume the body, the first real meal he'd had in a while. Flies descended, buzzing even louder as they too approached the fresh corpse. The remains of the monster would feed them all for weeks. It wouldn't be long before Thunder couldn't fit any more into his stomach. Yawning widely, he walked lazily to the tree, dragging many rocks by his side, and flopped down by the trunk. He wasn't able to sleep long, however, as in only a few hours he awoke to the sound of tearing flesh and snapping bone. In the dark of the night, his eyes darted to the source. It seemed to be the exact same kind of monster, cannibalizing its fallen kin. How annoying. Slinking over to a nearby bush, Thunder faces the new creature's left side. He studies it. Why does it look exactly the same? It doesn't matter. Same monster, same threat. Thunder bunches the muscles in his legs, preparing for a decisive ambush. And charges. Alright guys, that was pretty cool. That was pretty awesome. I hope you like it, because I have another one that's probably more likely. Resuming around where thunder erupts from the bush, the Indom 2.0 utilizes its constant adrenaline state and dodges thunder. The monster was not as surprised as Thunder thought. Barely dodging his ambush, the monster whips around to face Thunder, who had skidded to keep the monster to his left side. Now that he was out in the open, Thunder fully realized just how big it was compared to him. The monster looked to be twice his size, and very angry at his pitiful attempt on its life. It growls lowly, the vibrations reverberating in Thunder's chest. Instinctively, he turns bright white and bile rushes to the back of his throat. Seeing the monster's limbs flex in preparation for a lunge, he aims, opens his mouth, and vomits directly into its face. Shocked, the monster roars and quickly brings its hands to its face, clawing and wiping at the acid currently eating through its eyelids. Using this precious time, Thunder skitters around, desperately looking for a good angle. The monster begins to flail its body around, moving erratically in hopes it would catch its attacker. Thankfully, Thunder knows that the monster is both blind and incapable of smelling him. He takes his time pivoting until he is facing the blind beast's side. This time, he won't miss. With a powerful charge, he rams his horns into the monster's belly, piercing its stomach, liver, gizzard, and multiple air sacs. The beast screams before it digs its claws into Thunder's back. With a mighty heave, Thunder is lifted up out of the beast and down onto the jungle floor, slamming into a fresh puddle of blood. He would have sustained much more damage had the monster not gotten hitched on an incoming breath, realizing it was now much harder to breathe. Air whistled out of its belly. With fewer usable air sacs, the monster was now struggling to bring enough air into its lungs, enough air to sustain this kind of battle. Using the abundant time given, Thunder dashes out of range. He no longer needed to put himself in harm's way. The battle was already over. The monster wheezes, air whistling from its belly at a faster and faster rate. It, too, knew death was near. In a last-ditch effort to kill him, the dying beast threw itself at any and everything that made noise, slashing at trees, clouds of flies, and even leaves. Thunder watches with wary interest before quietly stalking away and returning with a mouthful of rocks. He empties his mouth into a soft patch of ferns before tossing the debris in the monster's general direction. Thunder curiously observes its blind charges into multiple bushes and trees before he grows bored and decides to simply watch it weaken. When the monster finally slumps to the ground, he again utilizes his padded feet to walk over behind it. Thunder watches useless tears stream down the beast's face, its body desperately trying to wash his acid from its eyes. He watches its chest move quickly up and down, struggling to take in enough oxygen. He watches its claws and toes curl, likely from the pain of being punctured. He watches, but the novelty has worn off. In a not-so-quick motion, Thunder places his jaws just barely above the back of the beast's neck, slightly behind the skull. He takes in a last sniff of this creature, so that he'll remember the scent, and bites down with all the force his jaws can muster. Crunch! The monster is no longer a threat. With no one but the rapidly approaching flies for company, Thunder returns to the beast's hole-punched belly and begins to feast. Alright, reading this over again, more likely was not the correct word. More like I wanted to use the other abilities that I didn't use in the first one. But as compensation, I have written one more where absolutely everything goes wrong and Thunder gets annihilated. It's probably the most likely version, actually. I tried to keep this one, somewhat short, because you already listened to two of these. While wandering the ominously silent jungle, Thunder happens upon an encouraging scent. Fresh blood. Hungry and curious, he follows the promise of food. It is a long walk, but he eventually reaches the origin of the smell. A blood trail, winding even deeper into the woods. There are small bits of flesh and disturbed foliage accenting the view. Whatever was dragged along this path must have been large. What disturbed Thunder even more was the large theropod footprints running alongside it all. Still, though, he couldn't just abandon this opportunity. He might never find a sign of food like this again. Reluctantly, Thunder began to follow the trail, licking up blood and bits of skin as he went. The blood trail thinned a few times, as though the trailblazer couldn't decide whether it had bled out or not, but nonetheless he could still follow. Several minutes in, mostly because he was being cautious and staying low to the ground, Thunder began to spot more blood trails. Eerily enough, those other trails began to converge upon the one he was actively following. Eventually, they all fused into one wide brown path, slicked with a light layer of red. Only a couple yards through surprisingly dense foliage later, Thunder found it, or at least what he hoped was it. The blood trails all led to a large, dark cave, almost 4 times the size. Ivy hung from its mouth and creeper vines blanketed the top. The entrance was made clear by the barren patch of earth, various crushed flora, and of course, the blood trail. Even with his excellent night vision, there was only so far he could see into the abyss. With a 4-second pause and a flash of pale white, Thunder regained his camouflage and sniffed the air. It reeked of blood and viscera, but also urine, feces, and a very bestial odor. This cave was a home, obviously scent-marked, in the feeding place of a large animal. He'd be suicidal to enter. There was no amount of hunger that could walk him into that death trap. Turning around, Thunder made a mental note to never approach or follow a blood trail again. In fact, he'd abandon this jungle as soon as he could. Lost in thought, Thunder nearly walked right past a massive white figure. Flinching to the side, eyes as wide as soccer balls, he looked up and up and up into the face of the homeowner. The monster towered over him. Even standing on two shrunken legs, it was a bit taller than most of the trees around it. It had a pale, T-Rex-like face with two large yellowish brow ridges, a pair of sunken eyes, and was he seeing this right? Red teeth. Red teeth. How much does one have to kill to literally stain their teeth red? How good of a hunter would they have to be? Thunder flashes white, then red, then white, then neon green, then white again, in patterns all over his body. The light show caused just enough hesitation for Thunder to narrowly escape being grabbed by its massive arms. The hands closed on empty air, the window of escape being so tight he felt its claws lightly scrape the side of his neck and haunches. Fueled by panic, Thunder bolts, crashing through the vines, branches, and whatever else the jungle decided to put in his way. The monster let out a thunderous roar as it too crashed after him. His legs pounded the earth, each stride long and powerful, but the monster had 4 legs to work with, pushing it further each second. Little shrieks escaped Thunder as he heard the monster run through the trees. Its large body smashed him over almost effortlessly, while he was forced to dodge and weave through its trunks and branches, made even worse by the fact that he was horrible at that very thing. It seemed that for every few seconds he ran, Thunder was either slowed by a patch of foliage or nearly ricocheted off a tree. More than a few times he almost tripped on a root and was caught by the beast behind him. In the mad dash, he happened upon a small, flat clearing. Without any obstacles, Thunder was able to shoot through the clearing and gain about 2 yards. Using that extra distance, he whipped his head around and vomited his assailant. But in his haste, he had missed by about 3 feet. That little waste of time lost Thunder the tip of his tail as he dodged a slash from the beast's long arms. At this point, the monster was very close behind him. He could hear trees he had just passed be smashed to the side. Thunder began fading into a pale green, desperately searching for some kind of cave the monster couldn't fit through, or a bunch of vines he would get caught in. But there was nothing. Just more bushes and more vines and more... Wait a minute. The trees. He could see past the trees. With his excellent vision, Thunder saw flat, open grasslands beyond the jungle, just a mile away. If he could make it there, he'd be home free. The monster couldn't possibly reach him on flat land. With as much extra force as he could muster, Thunder pushed himself even harder and dashed for the light. 0.85 miles. Thunder barely jumped over a fallen log, landing in a mud puddle that thankfully did not slow him much. The monster crushed the dead tree as easily as one would crush a cracker as it barreled on after him. 0.70 miles. Thunder slips on a decomposing pile of leaves. It is nearly enough to topple him, but he recovers and regains his lead. He can feel the monster's hot breath blowing on the tip of his tail before he feels its claws graze the injury. No damage, but very encouraging. 0.57 miles. The beast bellows in fury. It is not used to being evaded for so long. Thunder pays it little mind, however. He can see small anthills in the approaching grasslands. 0.46 miles. Another close call. Thunder had stepped into a small, foot-sized ravine. The fear turned him as white as the beast before he ripped his foot out in the next second. 0.31 miles. He could hear an interesting sound getting closer, and it wasn't the monster. His wondering was almost immediately cut off by another ear-piercing roar. Finally, the monster had made a mistake and slammed its shoulder into a particularly large tree. Thunder was grateful for his misfortune, as his quick rubbernecking caused him to run into a smaller tree. His foolishness put them right back at square one, with Thunder and the beast only a yard away from each other. 0.25 miles. The sound was closer now, but Thunder was no longer paying attention, his sole focus on dodging and weaving through the jungle. The monster was in rage now. She wasn't made to run like this, sure, but this stupid little green thing was making all kinds of blunders, and she still couldn't catch it. Her rage escaped her throat with each passing second, coming out as short, powerful grunts. 0.15 miles. Thunder was hyper-focused on the grass. He could see each individual blade, each little stalk of his survival. At this point, he was so hopeful he stopped paying as much attention to the little roots, the small stones, and annoying branches that occasionally slapped his face and stubbed his toes. 0.01 miles. He could taste it now, the fresh scent of wild grass. The monster roared again. In Thunder's opinion, it might as well stop. He'd pretty much escaped already. 15 yards. For a step, the ground was empty air, and in the next second, Thunder was flying over a small river with smooth stepping stones sprinkled throughout the water. He landed badly, his weight sending his foot down into the ankle-deep water and toes directly into a hidden stone, the momentum throwing him onto his belly and into the cold river. Thunder screamed. Oh, how he screamed. The pain was slightly delayed, but when it arrived, it was indescribable. The agony erupted in his toes like a volcano, burning away all sense of his surroundings for a single second. Just as he regained his ability to think, he whipped his head around at the monster. Being behind him, it saw as they flew into the river and was able to stop before it followed suit. It stared at his prone form for almost 2 seconds before starting to carefully crawl down the ledge. Now Thunder really began to panic. He got up as quickly as he could. Although there was cold water numbing him, the accidental use of his foot sent lightning bolts through his broken toes. He gasped with the pain and somehow managed to stand. The monster was hanging from the ledge by its arms, clearly about to drop itself into the gurgling river. Thunder attempted to walk normally until he came to the part in his walk cycle where he was supposed to put his broken toes on the ground. His foot did make contact, but he balanced on the metatarsalgia, or the ball of his foot, as he brought his second leg up early. This odd, jerky way of walking let him move quickly while minimizing the use of one set of toes. There was a loud splash as the monster finally dropped into the water. It was clearly too late, but like any good life form, he tried to run anyway. Thunder hopped out of the riverbank and closer to the light. He couldn't bring himself to look back. Another hop. There were more splashes behind him. The monster clearly wasn't in the mood for mercy. Another hop. Nearly there. More splashes. Another hop. And he was kissed. For the last time, Thunder felt the warmth of the sun before the monster tackled him to the ground like a linebacker. The air exploded out of him, escaping in a loud, breathless shriek. He was rolled over onto his back as the monster, in all its red-toothed glory, huffed in triumph. It reached for his throat, and Thunder, now paler than the beast itself, lunged for its hand. The monster reacted quickly, retracting the limb fast enough to only lose the tips of 2 fingers. It roared in pain, loud enough to rattle his eardrums, and quickly brought its jaws down instead. Thunder screamed again as the beast's teeth attempted to close around his skull. Finding his frill to be a little uncomfortable to envelop, the monster released him momentarily to adjust. Thunder took the opportunity to vomit, only for his face to be smashed into the ground, his jaw held down by the monster's bitten hand. When Thunder was allowed to move his head again, it was directly into its maw. This time, its mouth was around the sides of his face and its teeth were in his neck. Thunder's body flooded with freezing cold anticipation, so much so that the warm throbbing in his toes dulled to an ignorable ache. The monster's teeth sunk deep into his neck, like a hot knife through butter. Thunder's blood gushed from its jugular veins and fluttered around the monster's teeth, running out of its mouth like a water fountain. But the monster didn't stop there. Instead of simply biting his head off, it opted for a more brutal approach. Sinking its teeth deeper, the monster began to pull up, placing its hands on Thunder's chest. Its sharp teeth raked through the meat of his neck. The combined upwards force of its neck and downwards pushing of its powerful arms began to pop his vertebrae and tear his neck muscles. There was little Thunder could do but weakly kick at the monster's chest. Veins, arteries, meat, and joints were forcefully pulled apart, each making its own unique sound. The larger fangs quickly caught on Thunder's jaw and began to pull on the skeleton itself. The joints stretched further. His spine wasn't made to resist this. Eventually, a loud, sickening rip. Thunder's head was no longer connected to his body. Lower parts screamed, becoming a whoosh of air halfway through the noise. The monster reared up, the head and vertebrae of Thunder hanging from its mouth. It threw its trophy away, allowing it to bounce once, then land in the grass facing the beast. For his last few seconds of consciousness, Thunder watched as his killer began to bite down on his body, the powerful jaws crushing his ribcage with less effort than one would expect. His mouth opened and closed dumbly, the last of his blood creating a puddle in the grass. The monster again looked up, staring Thunder in the eyes as the light left his. It snorted and took another bite of its newest meal. Alright guys, that was certainly something. You might have noticed that I lied at the beginning of this one. It was in fact the longest story, 3 whole pages on Google Docs. Yeah. Anyways, I realized while writing this that Thunder was actually really short. When I finally found the Indom 2.0 stats, there's this fascinating little box that stated that the 2.0 was 18 feet tall, which is a whole lot more than 9.7, especially considering how Thunder is both shorter than an actual Carno and double its weight. Which was probably the only stat I actually researched. It's kind of wild how one guesstimation nuked this poor guy's chances. If I had the chance to redo the size, I'd probably make Thunder 16 feet tall and 23 feet long, and then mess with the weight a bit so he's not made of paper towels or lead. But enough of my regrets. This is the first video with significant effort on the channel, and I'd like to know what I could do to make it better. Or why some things wouldn't work on my hybrid besides the stats. Or whatever y'all want to say in the comments, really. Have a good rest of the day and subscribe if this was interesting. I might just make more, because I liked making this.